we were trying to represent band pass signals as low pass signals, or we were trying to put the complex representation of band pass signals and systems together. So we considered a band pass linear time invariant system with impulse response h of t. The given input signal was s of t and the output signal was considered as x of t. Now, the analysis of this band pass system as driven by a modulated signal, S of t could be considered as some modulated signal. We can simplify this by using combined complex low pass equivalent representation of both band pass signal S of t and the impulse response h of t. So that's what we did. We replaced this So we replaced both S of t, the input signal, and the impulse response h of t using the complex low pass representations, and then we could get the equivalent low pass system corresponding to this band pass system. That's what should be our end result. So we should get an equivalent low pass system for the given band pass system. So we can do this procedure in time domain as well as in frequency domain. Yesterday we had discussed this time domain procedure as such. So we know that S of t is the signal, its Fourier transform is S of f. So these are Fourier transform pairs, h of t and h of f are Fourier transform pairs. X of t is the output signal. So you can write x of t and x of f are also Fourier transform pairs. Okay. So with all these representations, we can write what is the output of this system. We wrote the output of this system can be, so you have a system, we showed we have a band pass system with impulse response h of t, we are giving input s of t, we are getting output x of t. So whenever we have this kind of system, we know the output is defined as convolution product of input into impulse response. So input is S of t, convolution product with h of t. We'll get, when we expand this convolution, it becomes integral of h of tau, S of t minus tau d tau. And we know we can write any bandpass signal as the real part of its pre-envelope, which is nothing but complex envelope into e power j 2 pi fct. And we later on know how to determine this signal. So if I call this signal as A, then the real part of A is obtained as A plus A complement by 2. That's all we have done. So when this signal was called A, we have added A to A complement and divided it by 2 to get A. We wrote all this. Actually, we wrote it in the form of A plus JB. A complement is A minus JB. So what is A plus A complement by 2? If I add these two, you'll be getting 2A. And when you divide it by 2, you're going to get A, which is nothing but the real part of A. This capital A's real part is small a, yes or no? That's why we are trying to find real part of this signal by adding the actual signal to its complex conjugate and dividing by 2. This is the logic which we have used. Okay. So next, say on similar lines, we can represent the impulse response of the system, which is also a band pass signal. Please remember, the impulse response is also band pass signal in this vicinity of frequency Fc. So this is the band pass filter, and the impulse response of the system is also a band pass signal. So any band pass signal will always be represented as what? The real part of its pre-envelope. The pre-envelope is defined as complex envelope into e power j2 pi fct. Please remember this. So this is nothing but the pre-envelope of the signal h plus of t. And the pre-envelope can also be written as h of t plus h cap of t, where h cap of t represents the Hilbert transform of the signal. That's why whenever I want to find the actual signal h of t, it is nothing but real part of the pre-envelope. And since we are interested in finding the complex representation, low pass representation of the band pass signal, I have to write the pre-envelope in terms of complex envelope. Remember, complex envelopes of a signal will always give low pass representation, and pre-envelopes give the band pass representation normally. So writing the pre-envelope in terms of complex envelope helps us to get the low pass equivalent of the band pass signal. So we have done this so many times. I hope by now you should be familiar. Anyway, we have named the signal S of t as equation B, h of t as equation C, and the convolution product of these two as S of t convolved with h of t. That's all we are doing. We are substituting equation B and C in the convolution integral. So what happens to the integral? 1 by 2 into 1 by 2, 1 by 4, integral minus infinity to plus infinity, h of tau. I'm replacing the variable t with tau. I'm writing this numerator as it is into for s of t, I should substitute s of t minus tau. Wherever I had s of t in this equation, I'll substitute t minus tau for t, because I'm substituting it in the equation of the convolution integral. So where have we substituted this? This is substituted h of tau s of, this is changing on its own, s of t minus tau d tau. This is the convolution integral, and in that we have substituted the expanded values of h of t and s of t. That we did all this yesterday, and we tried to simplify this. So when we tried to simplify this, this was the expression which we got. So after simplification, this is the expression obtained, and as I told you, using this expression, we know that both h till of tau and s till of t minus tau, whether we take the direct signal or its complex conjugate, both are low pass signals or low pass components, and which will have a modulated carrier frequency of 2fc. Whenever we have the carrier frequency of a low pass signal as fc or higher frequency 2fc, naturally those values will turn out to be 0. That's why these two signals, when they get multiplied with a carrier frequency of 2fc, wherever they are multiplied, see here, in this case, here I have the carrier frequency 2fc, where the complex conjugate of s till of t minus tau is multiplied. And here, where else this happens? Here also, the complex conjugate is multiplied with frequency 2fc here also, because 4 pi fc means it will be 2 pi into 2 fc. So wherever those things happen, those values will be taken as 0. So what is left in this equation? The first part of this equation will be retained. You can see h till of tau s till of t minus tau into e power j 2 pi fct. This won't be 0. And similarly, this part h till of conjugate of tau and s till conjugate of t minus tau. So even this part exists. These two parts will be approximated to 0, mainly because they are working at the frequency 2fc. So whenever a low pass signal, remember multiplying a low pass signal with e power j. See, any low pass signal, whatever is that low pass signal for that matter, when it gets multiplied with e power j 2 pi into 2fc into t, what would be the effective spectrum? This spectrum would be f minus 2fc. It gets shifted by a factor 2fc. So if this is positive, it will be right shifted by 2fc. If this was negative, it will be f plus 2fc. h till of f plus 2fc. Please remember all these things. That's the reason why we are telling. So a low pass signal at 2fc doesn't exist. Hence, we are considering these two components to be 0. So our left hand side will be equated only to the first two components as shown. Okay. And moving on, we know that x of t is half of the real part again of what? Our convolution integral, which was written as this. What is that? h till of tau s till of t minus tau into e power j 2 pi fct by 2 d tau. Okay. So it will retain this, the real part of this signal. And finally, I can express this equation. Okay, this convolution integral can be written as the convolution product into e power j 2 pi fct, which is also there in this integral. Okay. Now, the bandpass signal x of t can be represented in terms of its complex envelope. Just like how we wrote s of t and h of t, x of t can also be written as the real part of x till of t into e power j 2 pi fct. So any bandpass signal can be written as the real part of its complex envelope into e power j theta. Comparing these two equations, I can say that what would be the value. So comparing this 1 and 2, you can clearly observe this x till of t, the final low pass output, should be equal to half h till of t convolved with s till of t. E power j 2 pi fct is common, we cancel out. The left hand side is the same. On the right hand side, as you can notice, this part half into h envelope of t convolved with s envelope and x envelope of t would be equated. So as you can see, this would be the equivalent representation. So this is the equivalent representation which we want to have, relating what? Or after converting, actually we said x of t is nothing but, if you remember, how did we start? S of t convolved with h of t. All this was for the band pass system and band pass signals. X of t is band pass, S of t, H of t, all are band pass signals. And for the band pass system, we would get the output of the system as convolution integral of S of t into H of t. Now, when we converted it to equivalent low pass signals, so after conversion, what is happening? So after going through the process of conversion, we used some mathematical analysis and we did the conversion. After conversion from band pass to low pass, you see the equivalent low pass signal for the output. If x of t is a band pass signal, x tilde of t is a low pass signal. So please remember this. Many times I keep telling the complex envelope always represents a low pass signal. So the low pass output signal will be half of the convolution product of the low pass impulse response or transfer function of the system and the low pass version of the given band pass signal S of t. So if I convert S of t to S tilde of t and H of t to H tilde of t, then the corresponding value of X tilde of t, the low pass versions of all the three band pass signals, will be half into convolution product as shown. So this is the conversion which we wanted to achieve and show. So we have mapped that. You can see here. This is the mapping. So mapping from band pass to low pass signal. The input S of t, output X of t, impulse response H of t in the band pass. In the low pass version, S of t becomes S tilde of t or S envelope of t, H of t becomes H tilde of t, and the output X of t can become twice X of t or twice X tilde of t, or X tilde of t will be half into this. I should use a multiplier half, or it's easier for me to say the output X of t becomes twice that of the low pass version, twice X tilde of t. So from the same above equation, I can, instead of divide by 2, I'll say 2x tilde of t is equal to H tilde of t combined with, convolved with S tilde of t. Now let us write these are all complex signals. We know that, I don't know, you people keep joining whenever you want. So here I can write the complex representation of each of these signals. X tilde of t in complex form can be written as xi of t plus j xq of t. Remember, both xi and xq are real valued low pass signals. Okay, and since I have 2 times x tilde of t, I should have 2 times xi of t plus 2j times xq of t. Just like that, I can represent h tilde of t with hi plus jhq and s tilde of t with si plus jsq. So we are just writing the complex equivalent representation of all the three signals, where any complex signal can be written in the form of in-phase component plus j times the quadrature component. But please remember, both in-phase and quadrature components are all low-pass signals. Okay. So when we do this and when we simplify and equate, you can just try to multiply, do the convolution and try to simplify. I'm keeping this convolution as it is. So hi plus jhq minus HQ convolved with SQ because of J square being minus 1. Here, see here, plus J square. When I multiply the first terms, I'll get the convolution of HI with SI, the first term. I hope it's clear. So just look at this. First term multiplied on both sides is HI convolved with SI. Multiplication of second terms gives you plus J square, HQ convolved with SQ, plus J square is minus 1. And the rest is the imaginary term plus J into HQ convolved with SI. This will have a J and this also will have a J plus J into SQ convolved with HI. So these are the imaginary parts. These are the real parts. Now you can just equate. So equate 2xi of t real part with this real part and equate the imaginary part 2xq of t with this imaginary part. So you'll get the real part as hi convolved with si minus hq convolved with sq. It's simple. We haven't done any more operation. Just the convolution integral, we have just represented it as a convolution product. Similarly, this 2xq can be written as hq convolved with si plus hi convolved with sq. So now we have a low pass equivalent model. I can draw using this. I can have a low pass equivalent model to evaluate both in phase and quadrature phase components of the signal. So see here, to obtain this complex envelope, we are trying to get the output 2xi and 2xq. So from the equation, if I have si sq, hi hq, what would be the final value 2xi and 2xq? We have just implemented these equations. 2xi would be hi passing through, or hi hq we have used as the filter. So si passing through hi and what? SQ passing through HQ and getting subtracted. So you can see here, SI passing through HI and SQ is passing through HQ. SQ, HQ should get subtracted from SI convolved with. Remember, when I have a signal passing through a system with impulse response, the output of this system would simply be what? The output would be the convolution product. So here, whatever I get, I'll get SI convolved with HI of t. Please remember, a signal passing through a system, output of that will always be SI convolved with HI. The output at this point is SQ convolved with HQ of t. And from SI, HI, I am going to subtract. You see there is a minus sign. That will yield the value 2xi of t. So 2xi of t is SI convolved with HI, which we derived just now, minus SQ convolved with HQ of t. That's the realization. And similarly, we have realized 2xq also. So all you have to do here is remember the given signals SI, SQ, their impulse responses HI, HQ, all are low pass signals. Okay, they are real valued low pass functions. This is the equivalent model which shows how to convert the band pass signals S of t and H of t to the low pass versions of the signals. Is that clear? So this is the time domain analysis. Let's go through the frequency domain analysis quickly. Since these parts are actually repetition, I'll run through. We have done a part of this in the previous analysis also. So the frequency domain procedure, as usual, we'll start off from the complex low pass equivalent model of the band pass system. So we know band pass system is given as x of t. Its low pass version is x tilde of t. And we have already derived this. We showed that the low pass version x tilde of t for the band pass signal x of t will be half of h tilde of t convolved with s tilde of t. Or we said 2 times x tilde of t is h tilde of t in, convolved with s tilde of t. We have derived this just now. So what happens to this equation in the frequency domain? X tilde of f become x tilde of t becomes x tilde of f half into h tilde of f. Convolution becomes multiplication operation, and so this is multiplication, and this is s tilde of f. We know all these are Fourier transform pairs. Okay, so all this is known. Now to obtain this frequency response correctly, we know the frequency response h of f, which is for the band pass system h of t. It represents a band pass filter. The output of that band pass system was the signal x of t. Okay, and we had already found this in the last class. We showed that we used that addition of complex conjugates, and we added the pre-envelopes a plus a conjugate, and we obtained this. And we said this is existing only for positive frequencies. Given signal, when it exists actually only for positive frequencies. Please go through. We had done this. We have already shown that the envelope h tilde of f minus fc will be 2 times h of f for positive frequencies. Okay. So what does this mean? This means that the envelope h tilde of f can be obtained by shifting h of f by a value minus fc. Remember, the positive value of h of f is something like this. This exists at fc. If I shift this by a value minus fc, I am going to move this to this region. That's what is the meaning of this equation. And we also scale it by a factor 2. Okay, this h of f becomes 2 times h of f. This is the representation of h tilde of f. Okay, that's the meaning. Next is evaluate the in-phase component. How did we evaluate the in-phase and quadrature phase component? To obtain that, we wrote s tilde of t is si plus j sq, and s tilde of f is what? The Fourier transform of s tilde of t. So using this equation, x tilde of f is half s tilde of f into h of f. We'll be able to obtain Fourier transform of x tilde of t, which is x tilde of f. So what we are going to do, all these are just mathematical manipulations. So x tilde of t we are taking, we are going to get by taking inverse Fourier transform of x tilde of f. And finally, we'll be able to compute this output signal. So all this actually we had done in our previous class. I don't know if you remember, but this only is a reiteration of the fact that we will be able to convert a band pass signal to its low pass version and express all the components, in phase, quadrature phase components of the actual signal, of its impulse response, of the output signal, everything can be written in terms of real valued low pass components. And we have shown the model to represent the same also. So this is the final equation in frequency domain. The same thing we have already done it in the time domain. We have shown this representation in the time domain. In frequency domain also we are going to show. I think these procedures you can go through at home. With this we complete all Hilbert transforms, the complex representation in terms of rectangular form, canonical or rectangular polar form of band pass signals, then low pass signals by using complex envelope, band pass signals using pre-envelope, conversion from band pass to low pass by representing pre-envelope in terms of complex envelope, and by considering the whole system, which is a band pass system, converted to a low pass system. The next part which we have to analyze are line codes. We have already studied these line codes, if you remember, in PCS. In our last module, we have considered conversion of analog to digital signal, and then we have spoken about ways of representing those digital signals. So how to represent a sequence of ones and zeros? The best way to do that is to use electrical pulses or waveforms which help us in transmission of the given signal over a channel. So if you have signal 101, you can use plus A volts to represent 1 and 0 volts to represent 0. Again plus A to represent 1, something like this. So when we use electrical pulses or waveforms to transmit binary data or digital signals, we call such representation as line codes. So please understand what are line codes. Line codes are what do you say, electrical pulses or waveform representation of binary data. So they are waveform representation or electrical pulses representing binary data. Okay, they are called line codes. And the process of conversion of given binary data into these electrical pulses or waveforms is known as line coding. Okay, and more often line codes are also called as signaling formats. The other name given for line codes is signaling format. And in this basically we have two major types. Let me say the first type is NRZ, non-return to zero. So among the line codes we have two major types. Please mute yourself. Who is that? Two major types of line codes. We have many more subdivisions, many more types, but the two major divisions are non-return to zero and return to zero. So what happens in non-return to zero? The given electrical pulse exists for the complete duration of the signal. So if I have to represent a binary 1 and I'm using a positive amplitude pulse, say I'm using a plus 5 volts pulse to represent 1, for the complete duration of the bit, say this bit exists for a duration TB, for the complete duration of the bit, the value of that waveform will be plus 5 volts. Then it is called non-return to zero. If the next bit is 0, for the complete duration of this 0 bit, the value is 0 volts. Again, for this duration of the bit interval, this is 0 volts. So when the given signal has a particular voltage value for the complete duration of its bit interval, it is called non-return to zero. Whereas what does return to zero mean? Return to zero means during, you have studied all this, during half the bit interval, it will come back to zero level. See, a 1 will be represented with plus 5 volts, for example, for only one half of the bit interval. For the second half of the bit interval, its value is 0 volts. So just for half the bit duration, it will be high, and it has returned to 0 in the center of the bit duration. Then we call it as return to 0. So please understand the major difference between these two signals. Non-return to 0 means you have a positive pulse to represent 1. That positive value will remain as it is for the complete bit duration. And if you have a negative value, it will remain as it is for the complete bit duration. Whereas in return to 0, in the center of the bit duration, the signal will return. Say I had a negative pulse to represent 0. Say I was representing 0 with a value minus 5 volts. Again, for half this bit duration, it will remain at minus 5 and it will go to 0 in the center. In the center of the bit duration, whatever value it had, whether it had a value plus 5 or minus 5, it will come down to 0 in the center. That's why this is called return to 0. Okay. So we can have non-return to 0 line codes and return to 0 line codes majorly, but they are just a major classification. We have many other types of line codes. Let me show you some of the commonly used line codes. Okay, the first line code, we call it as unipolar return to 0. See, our binary data is written here. This is the binary data. We have considered the data as 10110100. Okay, I hope you are able to see that. Now, in unipolar return to 0, first thing what you should remember, return to 0 means in the center of the bit interval. This is the bit interval. In the center of the bit interval, it will come down to 0 from whatever was its initial value. Okay. Since this is unipolar, as the name indicates, it will have only one polarity. You can directly understand what type of line code you are going to get with its what name. When I say unipolar, it means it's going to have a single polarity. So either positive or negative, any one polarity. Usually we consider positive. So 1 is represented with plus A volts with an amplitude of plus A, and it will remain at plus A for only half the bit duration. For half of TB, it will remain at plus A volts, and for the other half, it will come to 0. Because it is return to 0. We are representing return to 0 format. And for the first half, a binary 1 will be represented with plus A volts. For the second half, it has returned to 0. Whereas a binary 0 in this case is represented with 0 volts. We have represented binary 0 with 0 volts in this unipolar format. Because it is clearly mentioned, I should have a single polarity waveform, either positive or negative. Since you should have a single polarity waveform, binary 1 is represented with a positive voltage and binary 0 is represented with 0 volts. So again here you can see binary 1 plus A volts for half the bit duration, 0 for the second half. Again the next one plus A for half the bit duration, 0 for the second half. And binary 0 is represented with 0 volts. This is how we represent unipolar RZ. Okay. Next, if I want to represent unipolar NRZ, non-return to 0, it shouldn't return to 0 in the center of the bit interval. For the complete bit interval or the bit duration, it should remain in 1 volt level. Again, this is also unipolar, means only one polarity I can have in the given waveform. So unipolar means it will be plus A volts for logic 1. Binary 1 is represented as plus A. Binary 0 will be represented as 0 volts. Similarly, binary 1 is represented as plus 1. Both these binary zeros are represented as 0 volts. So this represents unipolar NRZ. I hope you remember all this. We had studied this last time. Next comes polar RZ. We have polar and bipolar are different. Please understand, bipolar and polar are not one and the same. Unipolar is just one voltage level, or let's say 0 is always represented as 0 volts. 1 will be represented with a positive or negative voltage, generally positive. That is unipolar. Polar means logic or binary 1 is represented with a positive voltage. Binary 0 is represented with a negative voltage. That we call as polar. So here binary 1 is always represented with a positive voltage, say plus A. Binary 0 is represented with a negative voltage, say minus A. And that is polar format. And since we are representing return to 0 polar format, it should return to 0 in the center of the bit interval. So 1 will be represented with plus A for half the bit duration and 0 for the second half. A 0, binary 0 will be represented with minus A for half the bit duration and 0 for the other half. So please remember this, binary 1s will be represented with plus V or plus A, and binary zeros will be represented with minus A, and that too both during half the bit duration, because it should be returned to 0. Now I think you can easily write polar NRZ. How should polar NRZ look? Polar non-return to 0 means it should be plus A for binary 1 for the complete bit duration. For the whole bit duration, it should be plus A representing binary 1. And for the whole bit duration, it should be minus A representing 0. So this represents binary 1, this represents binary 0. It is not returning to 0 in the center of the bit duration. That's why this is called polar NRZ. So when do we call a signal a polar signal? A signal is called polar signal if binary 1 is represented with one voltage level, say positive voltage level, and binary 0 is represented with another voltage level, say negative voltage level. I hope you understood this. Next, let's see what is bipolar. So now we saw unipolar and polar. Next, we should understand what is the meaning of bipolar. Bipolar means logic 1 or binary 1, whatever you want you call it as. Binary 1 is represented with say one logic level or one voltage level for first time, and another opposite voltage level opposite voltage level. Second time, and third time again opposite. Third time again you opposite. See, I have 1 0 1 1 0 1 0 0. This is the given binary data. Let's see how to represent bipolar RZ. Whenever I have a 1, I am representing it as plus A. Since it is returned to 0, always remember you should come down to 0 level in the center of the bit duration. So in the center of the bit duration, I am coming down to 0 level for logic 1. Now in the first occurrence of 1, whenever 1 occurred for the first time, I represented it with plus A. And for 0, I'm not giving any variation. For 0, I'm using 0 volts. No change in the signal level. It's represented just with 0 volts. The second time 1 occurs, I'll represent it with a negative level. First time I had represented with positive voltage level. The second time this occurs, you represent it with a negative voltage level. Third time it occurs, again opposed voltage level, again positive voltage level. This is the third time. This is second time. This is first time. Fourth time it occurs, opposite of the previous. Previously it was plus A. The fourth time it will be minus A. Again, if it occurs somewhere here for the fifth time, it should be plus A. Hope you are following. This is also called as alternate mark invert. AMI we call it as, because it will mark as plus A for one duration and minus A for the other. Alternate mark invert we call it as. Please drop in your USNs in the chat box. Okay, this is bipolar RZ. All of you drop in your USNs. Similar to this, bipolar NRZ is another interesting case where the first occurrence of binary 1 is represented with plus A for the complete bit duration. NRZ means it shouldn't return to 0 in the center. So it is represented as plus 1 for the complete bit duration, and 0 level is represented as 0. The second occurrence of 1 is represented with opposite of the previous. Say the first occurrence of 1 was represented as minus plus A. The second occurrence of 1 will be represented as minus A. Third occurrence will be represented as plus A again. Fourth occurrence as minus A, so on. And 0 volts, 0 level is always represented as 0 volts. So this is bipolar NRZ. Okay. So please understand the difference between polar and bipolar. In polar, you can see in polar positive binary 1 is represented with positive voltage level, as you can see here. Binary 1 is represented with positive voltage level, binary 0 with negative, and RZ, NRZ accordingly. Whereas in bipolar, we don't represent 0 with any signal. We represent 0 as 0 volts. And whenever we have ones, every alternate 1 will be represented with the opposite polarity voltage. Plus 1 will be represented, first one will be represented as plus A, the second one as minus A, third one as plus A again. So every time we have ones, they will be represented with opposite polarity voltages. Okay, that's the bipolar. The last one is Manchester. In Manchester, we know that for half the bit duration, a logic 1 will be written as plus A for half and minus A for the second half. Whereas for logic 0, we represent minus A in the first half and plus A in the second. So there is a change in the center of the bit duration and it will happen like this. We'll continue.